right, Shalom. All right, let me get straight into the lesson. But I'm gonna get into this whole black narrative that you've been spoon-fed, force-fed your whole life. Right? I'm gonna show you how this evolved from you being called Negro, colored, African American, and black people, which is a curse. When you go into the definition black, I'm gonna get into that. Right? It's evil, wicked, sinister, deaf. Right? So that's why they put that label that our people ignorantly repeat to this very day. Right? So check this out. I'm gonna show you something, kind of give you some history on this. All right, give me 1 second. Let me play this video.
65, President Lyndon Baines Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act, bringing down one of the last legal vestiges of Jim Crow segregation. Just 5 days later, an altercation between an unarmed black man and the police sparked.
And you see how this guy's supposed to be so-called educated, but he's still using their term black to refer to a race of people out of his ignorance and this indoctrination, right? But you see his suit jacket is the color black, but his skin is the color brown, right? So this is a great witchcraft on you Jakes, man. You just can't stop calling yourself black people, right? And when you put that label on yourself, you're cursing yourself, right?
The riots on the streets of Watts, a predominantly black neighborhood in Los Angeles. The riots revealed that America still faced deep racial issues, and in the coming years, urban unrest roiled cities across the nation.
Dr. King's message of nonviolence wore thin as the 1960s progressed, particularly because violence is everywhere.
As race relations deteriorated, Stokely Carmichael, a young, charismatic...
Now check this out. This who these elites set up, right? They set all these social movements up to push agendas on you, so-called blacks, Hispanic, and Native Americans, right? I'm going to focus on the so-called black tribes, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi on this lesson, but this applies to the other tribes as well, right? And you got the so-called Brazilians, you got the so-called, it goes on and on. I'm just going to focus on the Southern Kingdom, right?
An electrifying speaker was searching for a new way to reframe the civil rights struggle, and he found it through one resonant metaphor.
It's time we stand up and take over. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. We want black power. We want black power.
Boom, there you go. Right, so yes, you got something called the Black Panthers, but the elites use these social constructs. Well, let me take it back. They use these fake leaders like the Jesse Jacksons, the Al Sharptons, to put these enchantments on you, these spells to push their agenda, right? Black. It says religious symbol of mourning, death, sin, sickness, and evil. So when you call yourself black people, you're casting a spell on yourself. When you refer to your people as so-called black people, you're casting a spell on your people. All right, so let's get into this. But now this thing is a social construct, right? Right, the so-called white man set up this social construct by using these fake leaders to push their agendas, right? It says, what is a social construct? It says a social construct is an idea that has been created. You hear this? Is an idea that has been created and accepted by the people in a society, black, white people. That them are social constructs, and you constantly put curses on yourself every day that you call yourself black, right? You Jakes are really sick, man. Let's go here. This is the book of Psalms 83. If we jump up on this to 1, it says, a psalm of Asaph, keep not thy silence, O Yahweh, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O power. For lo, thy enemies, you got enemies, Jake. You know, every day you love everybody else besides your own people, but you got enemies, Ninja, right? For lo, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. 3, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. 4, they have said, come and let us cut them off for being a nation. Now, this all makes sense why they call you colored. Then they call you Negro. Then they call you African American. Then they call you black people. Think about that for a minute. Think about how sick and twisted that is. Your nationality never changes. But this spell and this witchcraft been on our people for so long, I don't ain't gonna come out of it. Jake is fucking stupid. It says, 4, they have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation. They give you these bywords, right? That the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Let me make this statement as well. You had the darker tribes among the Northern Kingdom as well, right? The so-called Native Americans and so on and so forth. So on and so forth, Salakia, right? 6, it says the tabernacles of Edom, the so-called white men, is your number one enemy, knucklehead, right? You want to love everybody, but you don't even love your own people. Hypocrites. And the Ishmaelites of Moab, and the Hagarenes, right? And it says Amulek, which would be the so-called Jewish people today. Let's get all into this. Let's go to this black. Check this out. It says black is the mostly commonly used as an adjective, but you can use it as a noun. Like when you say the actors wore black. You hear what they're saying? The actors wore black. It says synonyms when used to describe color include inky, raven, and sable. The word can also refer to an angry feeling as a black mood or something wicked like black magic. You hear this? So you really got to stop calling yourself this, man. Right? And let's go here to this color thing. So your identity keep changing. It's like, Jake having an identity crisis. They still haven't woke up that these devils put all these different spells on your mind, and they created these social constructs. When they wanted to call you colored, everybody called you colored, including you fucking Jakes. When they wanted to call you Negro, they called you Negro, including you Jakes. Now they call you black. Now you ignorantly call yourself black. Look, colored. So they weren't calling you black people at this time, right? Negro, that's another term that they called you, right? It says 1550s, member of a so-called black skin face, which we are not the color black collectively. You got Jakes from the complexion of Chris Brown all the way to the complexion of the singer Seal, right? And most of these Jakes are brown skinned. So it's not no black skin race. It says from Spanish or Portuguese, negro, black, from Latin, nigrum, right? A nigger, right? So the word nigger is not really even a bad word. It just means so-called black, right? And that's what they originally called you, right? So let's go here. Let's go to this word spell. So it's a heavy spell on you Jakes. I've never saw anything like this. It's like, you can't even put this in context, but these curses will be on you Jakes, man. Aside this truth. It says spell. It says a spoken word or form of words believed to have magical power. Black people, right? Black magic, right? Black sheep, right? You getting the gist? So black is associated with some evil, wicked, negative, right? Baruch 2:30, for I knew that they would not hear me because it's a stiff-necked people. When you go on this word stiff-necked, it means stubborn. A lot of you Jakes love these bywords. You love them. You're very stubborn and you stuck in this bullshit, right? And you refuse to change. Even when we break these lessons down to some of our people, they just not going to come out of it. That's how effed up they is. It says, but in the land of their captivity is the elect, though. It is hope. It says in the land of their captivities, they shall remember themselves. So the Israelites was going to be scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, mainly in Babylon, and still in captivity, right? So we still captive. We're not a sovereign nation. We still have to answer to the system, right? Which was set up by the so-called white man, right? All right, let's go to this term African American, right? So this is another enchantment they throw on you, Jakes, and a lot of these so-called educated Jakes can't figure this out because they stupid. It says in 1988, Reverend Jesse Jackson urged so-called black Americans to drop the adjective black and replace it with African. It says Jackson argued that black no longer describe our situation in America. You see how that word is associated with something negative, right? It says the term African American was used for decades, so they replaced that black with African American in 1988 by Jesse Jackson and Boule himself, which was set up by these elites, right, to keep you under this witchcraft, under this spell. Let's go here. But it's all prophetic that our people will be in this condition. It says Deuteronomy 28 and 37, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, a byword, right, among all nations, whether the Lord Yahweh shall lead thee. So in all these places that you Israelites will be scattered, you'll be calling yourself bywords, black, Mexican, Puerto Rican, right? When you go into the word Puerto Rican, it means rich port. So that's some folly, man. Jamaican. I think Jamaican mean wetlands when you break the word down, right? You got Brazil, so-called Brazilians, so-called Dominicans, all right, so-called Haitians, right? All these are bywords that the Israelites will be calling themselves because they be in pure ignorance. I want to show you something else because they use these people they set up that you never heard of, and then they make them popular, and then they tell you these are your leaders. It says in the United States, Americans of so-called African descent, and that word African is not a real thing. There's no such thing as African people. That word African is a Latin word. It comes from the so-called white man. It says descent have held many identity labels. You hear this? African, colored, Negro, Afro-American, black, African-American. It says in the 1960s, there was a shift from the use of the word Negro. And you look at a lot of these Jake's birth certificates, they got the term Negro on it, and colored, and so on and so forth. So the so-called white man uses this system to keep you lost. It says to use, let me read this again. It says in the 1960s, there was a shift from the use of Negro to the use of black as a group identifier. You hear this? It says in 1966, Stokely Carmichael shouted the phrase black power. That's why they showed you in that video. And the Black Panthers was set up by the elites. You know what I'm saying? 3 years later, in the 1969, Negro was replaced by black as a dominant label identifier. You hear this? It says this paper will, Salakia, this paper will how I measured when the shift occurred, and we'll also set out the three major explanations for why the shift happened relatively quickly. Understanding the shift to black may help with understanding the identifier African American, right? So you see this stuff, man. It's all witchcraft and spells and enchantments on your mind to keep you lost. And you got most of our people are fucking ignorant, man. And it's vexation of spirit because they say it's like, you know, everybody else can get it besides these Israelites. You know what I'm saying? You Jakes. All right. Hopefully this lesson was edifying. Call Halal Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakat Kodash. Shalom.